He had 5 seconds to realize this wasn't a request. 5 seconds to understand that in the sewers of Riften, a polite question and a sharp blade are basically the same thing, and he was wasting time. My hand was already hovering over the dagger at my hip, the leather worn smooth from a nervous habit I couldn't seem to shake. He just scoffed. This Bersi honey hand, a man so proud of his dusty little shop, he couldn't see the desperation in my eyes. He saw a girl. He really should have seen a wolf. Joining the Thieves Guild wasn't about getting rich. Let's be honest. It was about surviving. But the first lesson they teach you is that survival has a price, and they expect you to collect it from someone else.
I don't know, Droff. They'd skin us alive if they knew we were doing this.
Why are you always acting like such a big baby? I've gotten us this far.
This far? We're living in a sewer. You said we'd have a house as big as the Blackbriars by now.
You worry about bashing people's heads in. I'll worry about the guild, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to check the entrance to the Ratway. Be right back.
My trip down to the Ragged Flagon was a blur of damp stone and the ever-present stench of desperation. They called it the Ratway, and for good reason. It's a place where you learn to move quietly and keep your eyes open, not just for skeevers, but for the two-legged kind of predators who call these tunnels home. When I finally found the guild's headquarters, it wasn't some grand hall of master criminals. It was a tavern, carved out of a cistern smelling of stale ale and moss. Brynjolf, the guy who'd seen something in me back in the marketplace, just greeted me with that same wry smile. He saw my journey through the Ratway not as an ordeal, but as an audition. He didn't offer comfort. He didn't offer riches. He offered a test. Taking care of business, he called it. Simple enough. Collect 3 debts. Send a message. Prove I was worth more than the rags on my back.
We've all heard that one before, Bryn. Quit kidding yourself.
It's time to face the truth, old friend. You, Vex, Mercer, you're all part of a dying breed. Things are changing.
Dying breed, eh? Well, what do you call that, then? Well. Colour me impressed, lass. I wasn't certain I'd ever see you again.
It was no problem. Getting here was easy.
Reliable and headstrong? You're turning out to be quite the prize. So, now that I've whetted your appetite with our little scheme at the market, how about handling a few deadbeats for me?
Deadbeats? What did they do?
They owe our organization some serious coin, and they've decided not to pay. I want you to explain to them the error of their ways.
Sounds good. Tell me about them. Who are they?
Kirava, Bersi Honeyhand, and Haelga. Do this right, and I can promise you a permanent place in our organization.
And how would you like me to handle them?
Honestly, the debt is secondary here. What's more important is that you get the message across that we aren't to be ignored. A word of warning, though. I don't want any of them killed. Bad for business.
And I'll get a cut, of course.
Of course you'll get a cut. We take care of our own. Now, if you need any details on your marks, I'll be here. Get going.
I want all the details on them. Let's start with Kirava. Any tips?
Kirava's stubborn, but she's got a soft spot for family. Talk to Talon Jay at the Bean Bar and see if you can get something out of him. They're well acquainted, if you catch my meaning.
And Bersi? Any notes on him?
He's as pig-headed a man as you'll ever find. The key is that ugly dwarven urn in his shop. Smash that thing to bits and he'll change his attitude.
Okay, easy enough. Tell me about Haelga.
Haelga is a devout follower of Dibella and dotes over the statue to the divine that she keeps at the bunkhouse. Use it as leverage and she'll cave.
The list was short. Kirava at the Bee and Barb, Bersi Honeyhand at his pawn shop, and Haelga at her bunkhouse. Brynjolf told me the message was more important than the gold. A grim piece of wisdom I was starting to get. In this city, fear was worth more than septims, and my pockets were empty. This wasn't a job. It was an entrance exam for a new life. One where I wouldn't have to starve, so long as I was willing to make someone else go hungry. First stop, the Bee and the Barb. It was warm, noisy, a completely different world from the cold damp of the flagon. I spotted Kirava, the Argonian innkeeper, behind the bar. Her face, a mask of pure exhaustion.
Here for a room or something to drink? Show me some coin first.
Brynjolf sent me.
I've already told that buffoon that I'm not paying you people a single coin.
It was not a request.
Look around you. I'm barely keeping this rat hole together. The war's seen to that.
I'm finished wasting my time talking to you.
Good, and take this little message back to your bosses. I'm not paying any of you a single septim, ever. Now get out of my inn.
She talked about the war, about how she was barely scraping by. For a second, I almost felt a pang of sympathy. Almost. But sympathy is a luxury, and I was flat broke. Brynjolf had given me a hint for each of them, a piece of leverage. For Kirava, it was her bartender, Talon J. I went over to him. Not like a threat, but like I was concerned.
Welcome to the Bee and Barb, milady. Could I interest you in one of our special drinks?
I think you might want to talk some sense into Kirava.
With the rumors going around about how poorly your guild's been doing, she's become much too bold. I'm not that foolish. The last thing I want is a war with your people.
Then help me. Help me convince her to pay.
Look, I'm only telling you this because I care for her. Don't mistake this as acceptance for what you do. Kirava has some family at a farm just inside of Morrowind. If you mention you know about it, she might just listen to you. Just please don't harm anyone. I couldn't bear the thought.
Turns out he was her lover, and he was terrified. Her newfound stubbornness was going to get her killed. He gave me what I needed, though. She has a family on a farm way out at Morrowind. It was just a small thing, but in the right hands, a fact can be a weapon. I went back to Kirava, the noise of the inn fading away. It was just her and me. I leaned in, my voice barely a whisper. Maybe I should visit that farm in Morrowind.
How could you possibly know about... Please, my family means too much to me. Don't hurt them.
Then pay up, and I'll forget all about it.
Very well. Here, take this back to Brynjolf and tell him he'll have no more trouble from me.
I walked out of that inn with 100 septims and a cold knot in my stomach. It wasn't a triumph. It was the grim satisfaction of a lesson learned. The easiest person to control is the one with something to lose. I was starting to understand the guild, and I was starting to understand a part of myself I wasn't sure I liked. Next up was Bersi Honeyhand at the Pond Prawn. This was going to be different. Bersi was a Nord, proud, stubborn, and not the type to scare easily. He didn't have a family I can threaten, not one Brynjolf knew about anyway. He just laughed in my face when I mentioned the debt. Petty threats and fist-waving aren't going to sway me, he said, waving me off like I was nothing. He thought I was just another street rat. He was about to find out the hard way.
Hello there, friend. Welcome to the Pond Prawn. What can I help you with?
I have a message from Brynjolf.
What? Oh, it's one of you people. So Brynjolf doesn't even bother to show up himself anymore, eh? What's this message?
Simple. You don't pay, bad things happen.
Petty threats and fist-waving are not going to sway me. You people are all talk, and everyone knows it. You demand payment for protection, and you can't even protect yourselves.
Oh, we can protect ourselves. You can trust me on that.
Don't fool yourself. It's only a matter of time before you people are run out of Riften.
I've had enough of this.
Likewise. Now I have a lot to do, so I'm afraid you'll just have to leave.
Brynjolf's tip for Bersi was simple. He valued one thing in his shop more than his own gold. A gaudy, ancient Dwemer urn, sitting on the pedestal like it was a king. I looked from the urn to Bersi and back again. He was still smirking, so I walked over to it. I didn't say a word. I just pulled the axe from my belt. It wasn't fancy, but it was heavy enough. Bersi's smirk vanished.
No! You're going to break it!
Just pay them, Bersi.
What do you think you're doing? He stammered. I ignored him and raised the axe. I hit it again. Harder this time.
No! You're going to break it!
A huge
word.
chunk broke off and clattered to the floor. With that final smash, the urn exploded into 100 pieces. The silence that followed was deafening. I turned to Bersi, his face pale with a mix of shock and fury. I didn't even have to ask.
All right, I get it. I'll pay on time from now on. Just don't smash anything else. Here, take your gold, and leave me in peace.
I took the money and walked out, leaving him standing in the ruins of his favorite thing. The lesson was clearer, sharper. Sometimes talking does nothing. Sometimes you have to be willing to break something beautiful just to be heard. My final target, Haelga, was the one Brynjolf seemed least sure about. She ran the local bunkhouse, and her real currency was secrets and favors, not septums. When I confronted her, she wasn't scared like Kirava or angry like Bersi. She was amused. She looked me up and down, a smirk on her lips, and practically dared me to try something. I knew right away that intimidation and brute force were useless here. Haelga was a totally different kind of problem. Her weakness, Brynjolf had said, was her faith. She was a devout follower of Dibella, the goddess of beauty. Tucked away in a corner of the bunkhouse, I found her personal shrine, and sitting on it was a small golden statue of the goddess. It was beautiful, but more important, it was my leverage. Stealth had always been a friend to me, mostly born from a need to just go unnoticed. I slipped the statue into my satchel without making a sound. When I went back to Haelga, I didn't demand money. I just let the cool, heavy weight of the statue rest in my palm right where she could see it.
Not Lady Dibella. No, please, I can't lose her. I get the message. Here, take your gold. I hope you choke on it.
She didn't need any more convincing. She practically threw her coin purse at me. Her eyes locked on the statue. I get the message. Here, take your gold. I hope you choke on it. I placed the statue gently back on the counter and left. This final lesson was the most important one. Survival isn't just about being strong. It's about being smart. It's about finding what someone truly cares about and using it. Violence is just one tool in the box. Knowing what to take, not just how to break, is the real skill. I walked back through the Ratway with 300 septums in my pouch that felt heavier than they should. The path itself felt different, less threatening. Maybe I was the one who changed? I found Brynjolf and the ragged flagon nursing an ale. He looked up as I approached.
So, job's done and you even brought the gold. Best of all, you did it clean. I like that. Dumping bodies and keeping the guards quiet can be expensive.
I put the 3 sacks of coin on the table. He barely glanced at them.
Well done. And it would seem I owe you something in return. Here you go. I think you'll find these quite useful.
He handed me 3 vials, a sickly green poison, a swirling red potion of health, and another that promised to make my steps even quieter. A practical reward for a practical job. What's next? I asked, my own greed surprising me. Brynjolf's smile widened.
Judging from how well you've handled those shopkeepers, I'd say you've done more than simply prove yourself. We need people like you in our outfit.
I'd heard whispers, though. Rumors that the guild was a shadow of its former self. I heard the guild's in dire straits, I said, testing the waters. His good humor didn't falter, but his eyes sharpened.
We've run into a rough patch lately, but it's nothing to be concerned about. Tell you what, you keep making us coin, and I'll worry about everything else. Fair enough?
I nodded. Fair enough. He stood up and gestured me to follow.
Now, if there are no more questions, how about following me and I'll show you what we're all about?
Being led deeper into the guild's heart wasn't the end, it was the beginning. It was a door opening into a much darker, more dangerous world. This was just my first test, and I can already feel the next one on the horizon. If you want to follow my journey down this shadowy path to see what lies deeper in the underbelly of Skyrim, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of the story. Later that night, after the formal introductions in the small corner of the cistern that they now called mine, I looked at the Thieves Guild armor. It fit like a second skin. I'd passed the test. I had threatened a woman's family, smashed a man's treasure, and stolen a goddess from another. Each act had chipped away a piece of the girl who'd starved on the streets, leaving behind someone harder, sharper, someone who understood the grim, practical truth of this life. Brynjolf had already given me my next job, an assignment for a very important client, something about a place called Goldenglow Estate, burning beehives and cracking a safe. A much bigger score with a much bigger risk. Felt a chill, but it wasn't just fear, it was anticipation. In this world, you are either a tool or the hand that wields it. Today, I learned how to be the hand. In this cold, unforgiving world, I was starting to see that a little pragmatism and a sharp dagger really are my best friends. And my dagger was very, very sharp.